Welcome back to Generation Rogue. I'm Kate Hildreth, and today I have a very special guest joining me, Mr. Emmett Connor, who is an author, an analyst, a speaker, online content creator. I'm very excited to talk about his book today. It's called Red Pandemic, The Global Marxist Cult. I'll be linking it below. Before I bring on Emmett Connor, the author of this book, one of the reasons I'm really excited to talk about this book is because, as we all know, the media is crazy, the world is crazy, lots of things are going on, and people don't really have a lot of context a lot of the times. There's this kind of sharing of recycled headlines. People aren't really digging deeper into important stories. They see a headline on CNN or ABC or wherever you get your news from on mainstream media, and they're just sharing things on social media and screaming at each other, and it's just a vicious cycle. A lot of people in my generation and the generations next to my generation are very, very not used to actually doing the research. We're very used to this social media age of just sharing things that we like the sound of. If something sounds good, I guess we'll post that and share that with everybody. And a lot of us aren't really digging any deeper. Some of us might not know how. Some of us might not want to because we want to stay in this state of ignorant bliss. So what we really need to do is identify these things, identify the problems, identify how they disguise themselves before we're basically at the point of no return. So what better way to get to the bottom of these news stories than to bring on someone who has done the research on the history of this vicious cycle? Where did it come from? What's it called? And how is it repackaging itself? We're talking about Marxism and socialism and how they've disguised themselves and are infiltrating our society in these ways. We need to understand how our freedoms are being taken away from us slowly, like this frog boiling in water. The water has to heat up gradually or else the frog is going to jump out. We've all heard this kind of scenario. This is a gradual erosion of our rights, gradual erosion of our freedoms, and we're not going to be able to get them back once they're gone. So get ready for an exciting interview with author Emmett Connor coming up here in just a minute. Are you still feeling the after effects of COVID or struggling with long COVID symptoms? You're not alone. But it is time to take action and reclaim your vitality. Dr. Peter McCullough says an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, and that's exactly what we're offering. Meet the wellness company's Spike Detox Trio, your ultimate ally in the fight against lingering COVID effects. This powerhouse blend of nanokinase, bromelain, turmeric is engineered to supercharge your recovery. Imagine nanokinase breaking down harmful proteins and boosting your circulation. Picture bromelain enhancing your body's antiviral defenses, and turmeric reducing inflammation to restore your overall health. This isn't just a supplement, it's a scientifically backed solution to transform your well-being. Visualize waking up with boundless energy, clarity, and a renewed zest for life. Life should be zesty, guys. Get your energy back. You deserve to feel amazing again. And you can with Spike Detox Trio. You're just a step away. Don't let COVID's shadow linger any longer. Seize this opportunity to feel your best because you are worth it. Reclaim your health by going to dailyclouthealth.com and use promo code KATE to save 10% and get free shipping. All right, welcome everyone. Today I am on with Emmett Connor, who is an Irish author, analyst, speaker, online content creator based in Dallas, Texas. He created the YouTube channel and website Resolving Reality, and he's written a book that he's going to tell us about. So welcome, Mr. Connor.
Good morning, Kate. Great to be here.
So tell us a little bit about yourself and what got you interested in these subjects and what your book is about.
Sure. So I began my YouTube channel in 2018. And I did a bunch of interviews as host, just covering several topics that concerned Ireland and the West in general, globalism and so on. I did that for a little while and temporarily took a break, and the break extended into a longer break. And then I wanted to create a bigger project. So I started to work on a book. Now, all of the issues covered in the book are the things that have been affecting Western countries in general: mass immigration, the climate change movement, trans ideology, et cetera, et cetera. And I noticed around that period that there was a pattern to everything, all those different subjects. It was basically all based on revolutionary activism or Marxism. So that's when I started to put the book together. And it was also the BLM movement in the States and COVID also were other kind of triggering factors. I noticed there was patterns connecting them all. And I noticed looking around and in public discourse in general that people weren't talking about this activism, Marxism, as much as they should have been. And I thought I needed to do something about this. And that's how the book started pretty much.
Interesting. So you're saying this was kind of, it started with the current events that you were seeing, and then the pandemic, and then BLM, and all of these things. So did you know you wanted to write a book before all of that stuff came out, or did it kind of just turn into a book as you started writing, as you started to see these things kind of unfold?
Yeah, actually, there was the latter. It kind of turned into a book. I never thought I would have the patience or the willpower to put a book together. But it was supposed to be a documentary originally because I started out making videos. But as I sat down to put all my ideas on paper and just brainstorm as you do and put things down on the pages and type away, I had a lot more knowledge than I realized on this subject. And I realized this is, unless I wanted it to be a 50-hour documentary and spend the rest of my life editing videos and doing voiceovers, I thought this has to be a book. So that's how it kind of started. It kind of happened by accident. And I mean, that was 2019, I think. And once I got into it, I thought I can't stop and I can't just turn back now. And I think a better man would have finished it in half the time. But because life got in the way and was running a business and so on, it was released in May of this year. So yeah, a long process.
So kind of walk me through what is the structure of your book? It's like it's called Red Pandemic, the Global Marxist Cult, and you kind of list all of these things like BLM and this kind of gender movement and climate change and all of these things. So how do you kind of lay that out in your book? Is it like a section for BLM explaining, the ties to globalism, Marxism, or how is that laid out in your book?
Well, I did. I asked myself that question when I started to put things together. How the hell am I going to do this? It's such a big story, and it's such an old story, and it can be complex. So I kind of had a few different sections where in the beginning, I went over the definitions, because the problem with the general understanding of this in the general public is that people don't even know what to call it. You'll hear terms like Marxism, socialism, communism being thrown around, and you can get into these debates with people, particularly people who like this activism. They'll keep you there all day debating what the words mean, which is not good for the rest of us because we can't solve the problem. So there was a section like that. There was a historical section talking about some of the history. There was another one talking about some of the major institutions in the past that have been involved in pushing this ideology, like the famous Frankfurt School, the Fabian Society, cultural Marxism, and so on. And then there's a section in the book where I list all of the major agendas, all the different things that have been happening, including mass immigration, feminism, climate change movement, socialism, and so on, and break them down. So the book's kind of written in an easy to read style for someone who is kind of like a novice at this stuff, and to take them from no knowledge up to being, knowledgeable.
Vice President Harris is proposing massive tax hikes, an almost 40% top income tax rate, 7% increase to the corporate tax, capital gains tax on unrealized gains, and the fact that she's proposing to add almost $2 trillion to a current $2 trillion deficit. You might be thinking it's time to make more of your savings tax sheltered and inflation sheltered. This is where I trust the good people at Birch Gold Group to help you. Birch Gold will assist you in converting an existing IRA or 401k into an IRA in gold. And the best news, you don't have to pay a penny out of pocket. Just text the word Daily Clout to 989898 and get a free info kit on gold. There's no obligation, just information on fortifying your savings before this crazy reality hits. With an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau and thousands of happy customers, you can trust Birch Gold too. Text Daily Clout to the number 989898 for your free info kit today. That's so cool. I think it's so interesting that, first of all, people are so quick to kind of forget history, right? Or just kind of like sort of just ignore that, and this is what we're talking about today. And so when you take a historical approach and, like, you know, this is what happens when you take guns away, or, you know, this is what happens when you control people in this way, we're kind of missing the signs, a lot of us, I think. Why do you think that is? Do you think it's you know, a failure of education? Do you think it's just, you know, a very intentional change of education where, you know, kids are quite literally being told these Marxist things throughout all of school, and therefore, you know, they just believe this as fact? Or how do you think that came about, where we can't, it's like we can't have a conversation, we can't talk about the history, we don't want to acknowledge any of that? Why do you think that is?
Yeah, this is a great point, Kate, and I think this is probably right to the crux of the whole matter here. Why is it that something that's so toxic and so destructive and that's so old, why can't people still can't even see the damn thing after all this time? And it's, as you say, it's because of regardless of what it's done in the past, of the death toll in the 20th century with socialism, or all the lives that it's ruined and so on, it's very, very good at repackaging itself. So this isn't, you know, in our defense of everyone in the West, except nerds like me or analysts like me, or some nerds like myself. For most people, in the defense of most people, to be honest, this thing is so good at hiding its intentions and hiding its origins and repackaging itself that the average person may struggle to make a connection between, say, you know, the horrible so-called communist regimes of the past and what's happening today in schools with the trans movement or the climate change activists on the streets. The average person without the knowledge won't be able to make connections between them. And that's why I put the book together, to clearly link all of these different things happening to this historical movement in the past. It's very, very good at changing what it is, and having this kind of benevolent face. So, you know, feminism is about making women's rights and making them feel good. It really isn't. It's about using women to further the ideology. The climate change movement is supposed to be about saving the planet, which is a super arrogant idea that we can save the planet, right? But it's you know, it's kind of malevolence disguised as benevolence. The whole wolf in sheep's clothing thing, where it tricks you into thinking that it's nice, but it's actually a predator. And this ideology, we've never seen anything like this, and it's very, very good at hiding what it is.
Yeah, so you said something interesting, which is, you know, it has a benevolent face. I think that's very true. So how do we identify the difference between, say, being kind and, you know, let's say, telling a little boy that he's a girl because he doesn't like to play with trucks or whatever? You know, how do we kind of bridge that gap between, you know, the people that I've talked to who are, you know, very into these ideologies? It's always this idea of, like you said, equality and kindness and joy and all these things, which are good, but the way that things are working is not that, right? Like, it's very much deceptive in that way. And so how do you, for novices, as you said, how do you identify those key things? Like, how we should be looking for them, right? Like, if we can't identify them, we can't know that it's the wrong thing. So how would you recommend that someone who knows nothing about any of this be very aware and discerning? How can people discern how to identify these ideologies that are actually very malevolent?
Yeah, it's a great question, and it's a real part of the struggle of my job. And I think to educate people, and I think that knowledge is really power in this case. And we have to learn the ideology, learn it's all of its different tricks. So then, the minute someone comes out in the corporate world and says, "Oh, this corporation, we need some DEI, or diversity, equity, and inclusion, to help the company run better," or the minute they say we need some environmental, social governance to you know, assess companies, you know, this is Marxism. That's what you're trying to play here. Or when someone else comes along and says, you know, oh, somebody's being oppressed, That's basically what they use that one quite a lot. Someone's being oppressed, like this trans person's being oppressed, they need to be saved. So I think if we educate people into the tricks that they use, and just put them all out as like kind of a database, which is what the book is really, then they become a lot more transparent. And that helps to break the illusion in people. Now, this is part of the human condition, right? A lot of us can have that superficial thing where we're not all the same, we're not all equal, of course, but some people tend to, if they're not thinking too deeply, they tend to react to things how they are on the surface. And it's those people who are at most risk of getting conned, pretty much, because they're not looking deep enough. And to be honest, I don't want to get all too psychological on you too early in the interview, but this is kind of should be like a life skill of people. Just because someone's being nice on the surface doesn't mean they're actually a nice person. So I don't know how we fix that problem. I think we're all different, and the ideology is very good at capitalizing on that kind of gullibility in people, unfortunately.
Are you ready to move easily and independently without pain or stiffness holding you back? Discover Native Path Collagen, a collagen formula that is scientifically backed to increase bone mineral density, accelerate tissue recovery, reduce wrinkles, enhance hair thickness, and strengthen weak or damaged nails. Who wouldn't want more collagen with all these benefits? Native Path Collagen is a single ingredient formula with no fillers, no additives, no artificial sweeteners. Plus, it's third-party tested for heavy metals, ensuring purity and safety. It's completely flavorless. Native Path Collagen can be added to anything, coffee, smoothies, oatmeal, you name it. Its peptide formula makes it more bioavailable, meaning it's absorbed more easily and mixes perfectly without clumping. And the best part, Native Path offers amazing bundle deals. You can get 3 or 6 packs at a fraction of the price of other brands. With over 4 million jars sold, 1 million happy customers, 8,000 5-star reviews, and a 365-day money-back guarantee, Native Path is a trusted choice. Right now, when you visit getnativepath.com/dailyclout, you can stock up on Native Path Collagen for up to an incredible 45% off today, plus free shipping. Every order comes with that 365-day guarantee that I mentioned, so you can try it risk-free today. Visit getnativepath.com/dailyclout and start your transformation today. Yeah, I totally agree. I think people do tend to get caught up in the headlines, and they don't really dig deeper than that in a lot of situations. And probably social media has something to do with it, right? Like, it's easy to share an article and be like, look how awful this is, oh my gosh, we need to change, right? So all of these issues that you've listed are prevalent today. As we're leading up to November and our election, what are you seeing in terms of and maybe you don't cover this in your book, but what are you seeing in terms of your discernment with how the way, say, the media is handling people's campaigns, and how candidates are being perceived, and how candidates are being represented in media to the people who are obsessed with headlines?
Yeah, this is another important issue, because the media is highly contaminated with people who are brainwashed with Marxism. And this is a pattern I've seen across another West. I live in several Western countries, the UK, Australia, I was in Malta recently, and now I'm in the States. And it's like the same pattern. You see it everywhere, where the mainstream media is, if they're contaminated with this activist mentality, they're going to be automatically biased towards anyone in the public realm or anywhere else, public figures who go along with their ideology. So obviously that's why Biden or Harris and so on are going to be the saviors of America, and people like Trump are going to be from the pit of hell and the enemies, because they're more patriotically minded and they don't go along with Marxism. Obviously, Trump, amongst many of the things you could say about the man, he's a capitalist. That's his thing, that's his trade. And the Marxists are against money, they're against profits, they're against prosperity. They think all business owners are evil, and are trying to oppress the poor workers and so on. So that kind of media bias is a big part of it. And linking into what we were saying, the media obviously hold a tremendous amount of power in society. If they are ideologically compromised, which they are, they're going to pump out propaganda. And that's another typical trait of this ideology in history. You're not being educated anymore. You're not being given news anymore. You're being given information with a Marxist slant. So the elections are very important here in the States, and I hope the patriotic side wins. That's what I'm mostly interested in. And really, what you're struggling with here in America is a struggle between patriotism and Marxism. Like anywhere else, they're both antagonistic.
Yeah, and in the list of kind of things you cover in your book, I see, the things we've already talked about, and I also see anti-Christianity, which is an interesting one that I want to ask you about. There's a lot of, as you know, there's always a lot of tension, especially, what happened in Gaza, what happened, to the Israelis. And so there's a lot of, in the media, this anti-Semitic kind of talk and genocide in Gaza and all of these things. And I feel like, people dying, being killed is always bad. Like, regardless of what religion you are, regardless of where you live, it doesn't matter. But what I find interesting, and maybe you can speak to this, is people don't really talk about the anti-Christianity much at all. You don't hear someone, insulting Christianity or someone who's Christian, and you don't hear the same kind of outrage as you do for something that is anti-Semitic, for example. So why do you think that is? Is that part of something you cover in your book, or what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, this is a great point also. And there is a section in the book that deals with the problem of anti-Christianity, because Marxism seeks to destroy the pillars of Western civilization. So capitalism, Christianity, and culture, in addition to the traditional family unit, because those things give countries strength. And that's how the West was kind of built on these concepts. And Marxism seeks to just destroy everything and dominate. So it needs to remove those things from the equation. And with respect to Christianity in particular, Christianity is obviously a religious belief system that's very, very popular, and it's very, very old, and it's part of the fabric of Western civilization. So basically, the first reason why Marxism wants to destroy it is because it's a competing ideology with its own. Christianity has its own strong moral, ethical beliefs within it. And when you look at what happened in the 20th century, particularly the feminist movement, which is an element of comes from Marxist activism, of course, has really sought to attack the Catholic Church in particular, because obviously the church was against abortion, it's pro-marriage, it was against gay marriage, and so on, all the things that Marxism pushes today. So Christianity, particularly the Catholic Church being the world's biggest Christian organization, has been a major obstacle for Marxism, which is why it's sought to destroy it. And in Ireland, I know it's the same in Canada, you've seen, say, churches being burned down, you've seen they tried to equate Christianity with pedophilia to try to tarnish it and so on. And they've used subversion within the church, as well as propaganda from the media, to try to destroy it. And unfortunately, they've done a really good job. And it's no coincidence that Christianity has been dropping in popularity in the West, and Marxism is becoming more powerful. It's not a coincidence at all. Again, they're antagonistic.
If you're anything like me, you might find yourself getting caught up in the news cycle, the craziness of the day. There are so many things to lose sleep over. But not anymore. Ever since I started adding Magnesium Breakthrough to my nightly routine, I've been able to quiet my mind and get the best sleep ever. Unlike other magnesium supplements that might be giving you 1 or 2 forms of magnesium, Magnesium Breakthrough gives you all 7 forms of magnesium, designed to help calm your mind and help you fall asleep and stay asleep and wake up refreshed the next day. Don't miss out on the most relaxing sleep ever with Magnesium Breakthrough. For an exclusive offer, go to buyoptimizers.com/dailyclout and use the promo code dailyclout during checkout to save 10%. And if you subscribe, not only will you get amazing discounts and free gifts, you will make sure your monthly supply is guaranteed. That's buyoptimizers.com/dailyclout. That's so interesting. I have to ask, because I am Catholic, actually, so I had to ask that because it is very interesting. Like, and it makes sense, I guess, because as you're saying, it's a competing belief system. So I suppose that makes sense. And part of it too is, the media doesn't cover it. So you're saying, churches are getting burned down, which they are, and you don't hear anything about it. You don't hear anything about Christians being murdered, abroad or anywhere else, you just don't hear about it in the same way as you hear these other things, which are, look, as I said, anyone, being treated badly or being killed for their beliefs or wherever they live is always wrong. It is just interesting that Christians and Christianity don't really get that kind of coverage in the same way. And if it is, a directly competing ideology, that I guess that makes sense. So what else do you want to say about your book? Because there's a lot of things that you cover, obviously, that are very important and very prevalent. And, what do you want people to know for why they should buy your book, to be informed about things instead of, ignorance is bliss. So why should we sit down and read something when we can just be happy and ignore everything,
Yeah, unfortunately, reality doesn't work that way, and we would all like to just drift off into hedonism and have comfortable lives, and that's what we've been living. And I'm not saying we shouldn't enjoy our lives and so on, but unfortunately now we have this problem in the world that's been with us since arguably the French Revolution, particularly in the 19th century, and this thing will always keep coming back. And in fact, it's getting so bad now; it's literally threatening to destroy the West. And as I argue in the book, not just the West, but the world. And this is dragging us towards World War III as well, in my opinion. So this is not going to go away on its own. And we need to break that cycle of just people being ignorant of this. And because it's going to destroy everything, which it already is. And as I argue in the book, unfortunately, there's no way around this but up the hill. People have to put the effort in to learn about this subject, because it really is amongst other things and the things we mentioned, this thing destroys national sovereignty. It destroys cultures. In Ireland, it's driving a lot of the problems, including mass immigration, which leads to the breakdown of law and order, the breakdown of services. The state is getting more heavy-handed and forcing this agenda, globalist agenda, on people. So it's not going to go away without a fight, and it's not going to go away on its own. Unfortunately, conflict is inevitable. So, people have to get on board with this and then choose the best tonic to all of this is to choose a patriotic stance, to keep traditional values, choose patriotism, try to marginalize and suppress Marxism all we can, as much as we can. Otherwise, everything is lost, basically. It's pretty much straightforward as that.
Yeah, because if you're giving away your freedoms, it's going to be pretty hard to backtrack and get them back once they're gone. So where can people find you? Where can people order your book? Where can they follow you if you have social media?
Sure. So the best place is the website, Kate. So it would be resolvingor.com. So or for Romeo, resolvingor.com. I have to say that because of the accent. So resolvingor.com is where all my platforms are. And there's a page on the website dedicated to the book as well. All my social media, YouTube channel, and so on. But the page dedicated to the book has a description with images and everything and where you can buy it. So it's available at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and some other outlets as well.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for joining me today, Mr. Connor. I really appreciate it. As a semi-novice in all of this, and I'm always excited to learn, the specifics and the history and the proof behind the pudding of what Marxism does and what socialism does historically, especially as it relates to these important issues that we're seeing. And, I think that my generation needs your book quite a bit. So maybe I'll order a few copies and start handing them out so we can all be informed. But thank you for joining us. And is there anything else you want to say as we wrap up here?
Sure. Well, I wish the best for America, and I hope you guys get on top of things here, because as well, it's not just about America. This is about the world. So this is a global struggle, and I hope patriotism wins. And so push this as hard as you can, and do your best to sort out the treason problem you have here. And remember that it's ideological as much as it is political or anything else.
Thanks so much. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you, Kate.
Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed that interview. It was very informative. I'm definitely going to have to read that book. Be sure to visit the website that he mentioned, resolvingr.com. I'm going to have to do some reading. You should do some reading. Encourage your friends and family to do some reading so that they can understand the history and the cycle of events like these and how they can identify freedoms being taken away gradually as we go through these strange times. So again, that's resolvingar.com. Links go to everything. Emmett Connor's social media. You can order your book from there. Stay safe out there. Stay awake, stay curious, and I will see you next time.